We're going to get started. Good evening, everyone. Before we begin, I wanted to briefly acknowledge the attack earlier this week at Santana Row in San Jose that targeted Israeli Americans. Moments like this create real fear in our community, and we hold those affected in our thoughts as we turn to tonight's conversation about how Jewish values call us to show up for others with dignity and care. My name is Jessica Blitchock, and I am the Director of Community Partnerships at the Jewish Community Relations Council, also known as JCRC. So thank you for joining us for tonight's webinar, Jewish Values in Action, Supporting Immigrants Across the Bay Area. We are grateful to have so many members of our community here today who care deeply about how we show up for our neighbors and for the values that guide Jewish life. We are gathering at a time when immigration is at the forefront of national and local conversations. Across the country, immigration enforcement has intensified, creating heightened fear and uncertainty in many immigrant communities. Families are navigating legal vulnerability, increased enforcement actions, and the very real anxiety of separation. In recent months, U.S. citizens like Renee Good and Alex Preddy have been killed during immigration enforcement actions, and dozens of people have died in ICE custody, marking the deadliest year on record in recent history. These losses have sparked protests and vigils across the country as communities demand accountability, dignity, and justice. For the Jewish community, questions about how we respond to the vulnerability of others are not new. Jewish tradition repeatedly reminds us of our responsibility to care for the stranger, grounding this commandment in our own collective memory of having been strangers in the land of Egypt. The Torah returns to this teaching again and again, urging us to build communities rooted in dignity, compassion, and justice. Across the Bay Area, many Jewish organizations, synagogues, and individuals have been living out these values through concrete action, supporting immigrant families, building partnerships, advocating for dignity and safety, and offering care in many different forms. Yet many people who want to help often ask a simple question: where do I begin? This webinar is an opportunity to highlight the many ways members of the Jewish community are already engaging on this issue. By sharing these initiatives, campaigns, and volunteer opportunities, we hope to illuminate the breadth of work underway and to inspire others to find their own pathways for involvement. There is no single way to act, but together our efforts can reflect the values that have long guided our community. Tonight, we will hear from several leaders and organizations across the Bay Area who are putting Jewish values into action in support of immigrant communities. So just a quick little bit of housekeeping. The webinar is being recorded for internal purposes. A decision will be made after the webinar as to whether we will share the recording. The Q&A box is open for questions, and we will try to answer questions submitted in the Q&A towards the end of the program, provided there's time available to do so. And now I'm really happy to introduce our esteemed panelists. Suzan Berns is a public relations professional and a freelance writer who worked in the Jewish community for over 25 years. She was Associate Director of Public Relations and Marketing at the Jewish Community Federation for 18 years and followed it with a 7-year stint as Director of the Marin region of the Jewish Community Relations Council. As a freelance writer, she wrote Faces, a bi-weekly column about people for the J Weekly, the Bay Area's Jewish newspaper, for 13 years. She is a board member of Congregation Rodef Sholom in San Rafael and is a founding member of the congregation's immigration rights team. Welcome, Suzan. Nancy Bott has been a lifelong San Mateo resident where, along with her husband, they raised their 2 now adult daughters. Professionally, Nancy served as Director of Finance and Administration at Gymboree Corporation before founding Bott & Associates, where she was owner and president until her retirement. Nancy is a dedicated member of Peninsula Temple Bethel, where she has been an active leader and volunteer for many years. Her extensive leadership includes 5 terms on the board of directors, 10 years as treasurer, and 7 years as chair of the Religious Practices Committee. Nancy also served on the Commission for Religious Living of the UAHC. She currently serves on Temple Bethel's Rodef Tzedek leadership team and is also involved with the Peninsula Jewish Community Center, serving on an advisory committee with the Center for Healthy Longevity. In addition to her professional and volunteer leadership, Nancy has been the longtime caregiver for her disabled husband, an experience that has deeply shaped her perspective on caregiving, resilience, and community support. And with full transparency, I'm going to just let you all know that Nancy is also my mother and was an inspiration for this webinar. So welcome, Mom. Stewart Florsheim was born in New York City, the son of a Holocaust survivor and a refugee from Hitler's Germany. His poetry and nonfiction have been widely published, and he has received several awards for his work. Stewart edited Ghosts of the Holocaust, an anthology of poetry by children of Holocaust survivors, published by Wayne State U Press. He published 4 other books of poetry. His most recent collection, Amusing the Angels, won the Blue Light Book Award in 2022. In addition to his writing, Stewart is active in community advocacy. He is one of the co-founders of the Immigrant Advocates Workgroup at Temple Sinai, where he helps organize community support and advocacy for immigrant rights. He also serves as vice president of the board of directors at Jewish Family and Community Services East Bay and co-chairs its advocacy council, helping guide the organization's public policy and community engagement efforts. Stewart is also on the advisory council of End of Life Choices California. Welcome, Stewart. And Rabbi Aaron Torop is the assistant rabbi at Temple Isaiah in Lafayette, having joined the clergy of Temple Isaiah after being ordained from the Cincinnati campus of Hebrew Union College, Jewish Institute of Religion in July 2024. Raised in St. Petersburg, Florida, Rabbi Torop graduated Phi Beta Kappa from American University with a BA in political science. Prior to starting at HUC-JIR, he was a legislative assistant at the Religious Action Center of Reform Judaism in Washington, D.C. Rabbi Torop is a Nachshon Project Fellow, which transforms North American Jewish life by supporting diverse, cross-denominational Jewish clergy and leaders. He is passionate about bringing timeless Jewish wisdom to speak to our contemporary lives, joys, and challenges. Rabbi Torop is deeply committed to the work of Tikkun Olam, preparing the world, and engaging every person in transformational and relevant Jewish learning. Rabbi Torop lives in Pleasant Hill with his wife, Rabbi Madeline Budman. So welcome, Rabbi. Thank you again to each of our panelists for joining us today. And we are going to start by hearing from Rabbi Aaron. Rabbi, when we started talking about this webinar, you said 2 things that were really important. And the first was that this work of engaging in the issue of immigration is not risk-free as it used to be. And the second thing you said is that it's really important to not reinvent the wheel. And I thought that was a great place for us to start. So can you share a little bit more about both of those ideas?
Absolutely. And thank you, Jessica, for organizing this webinar. And thank you to Stewart and Suzan and Nancy for joining me and us on this panel and this incredible work. And thank you to all of you for being here tonight and committing to doing the work together. When I think about risk, I actually want to start with where you started with what happened this week in our community, because it really reminds us of our collective safety and collective risk and the importance of working together to create a community, a society, a country that is safe for all of us. We know that a country that's inhospitable to immigrants is also a country that's unsafe for Jews. Instead of thinking about this as an either or, do I help my community or do I reach out to others? It's really both and, right? It's the kinds of projects and commitments that we make to each other that help keep us safe. And of course, when we think about immigration and immigrant justice and organizing this year, there's been risk, and especially after the murders of Renee Nicole Good and Alex Preddy, it's the conversation has shifted some, and so it's a question we're getting a lot. So when I think about risk, I think first, that it's an important thing for everybody to consider, and we each have to make our own choice about how much risk we're willing to take on. As I approach my work around kind of supporting the immigrant community, I try to present people with all the options. Here's the whole panel of opportunities that are in front of you. Here's the risk associated with each one, and let's figure out what level of risk makes sense for each of us. We know that the risks can be incredibly extreme and severe. There's also a lot of unknown risk, a lot of potential around the tracking and digital surveillance and targeting of protesters that we don't yet know if and to what extent that's happening and how that might be used or misused against people moving forward. And although there is some risk involved, one, I think it's a risk we have to take. I think it's this issue, this commitment to our collective safety is too important for us to do nothing. And two, speaking from my own personal experience, the vast majority of opportunities, volunteering and protesting and engaging in this work that I've experienced have been completely 100% safe. So the risk is out there, but we don't see it showing up as in helpers' lives all the time. And I try to remember that whatever risk I'm taking, it's riskier for those who are directly impacted. It's riskier for those who are here either with documents and papers or without documents. It is riskier for people who are being pulled over by ICE and being surveilled in their day-to-day lives. And that's where working with not reinventing the wheel comes in. Because of that level of risk, it's so important to be engaging with trusted organizations and partners, people that have been in community and in relationship doing this work for a long time. We don't have to come in with all the answers. We just have to say, we're here to help and what's going on and how can we be supportive. Really, this work all comes down to trust and the trust that the immigrant communities have with the organizations and service providers that they've been working with. And our trust to say, you know what's best, tell us how we can help, and we'll do that for you. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and we don't need to bring thousands of people to this work. It'd be great if we could, but there's so much work that can happen with 2 people, with 4 people, by saying, me and 3 other of my fellow congregants or neighbors or friends are going to go and take this work together. We're going to go and join this other organization that will help us magnify and amplify our power. And so if we don't spend so much time reinventing the wheel, we can spend more time doing the work and doing the work alongside those that have been in this fight for a long time.
Thank you so much. And I know that you are not going to be the only one who mentions trusted partners, because I know that that's a through line for our other speakers tonight, is that really this is an opportunity to align with those credible voices on the ground that are already doing the work and leaning into partnership. So thanks for starting us off like that. I know that Temple Isaiah is engaged in the work of supporting the immigrant community in a variety of ways, and that direct service work that does not directly engage the immigrant community may not be an obvious place for some people to start. I think a lot of people, when they think, I want to help, they envision themselves being directly engaged with the immigrant community when they do so. But can you share about the direct services work that your community is part of, and why it might be important to start there?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll share a couple projects that we're working on, and I know that there's also more that's happening. One of the projects that we're deeply engaged with is creating a new food bank in the Monument Corridor out in Concord, alongside Monument Impact, which is the main social services organization supporting this work. They're creating a food bank in a high-density immigrant neighborhood, and it's the only food bank in Contra Costa County that's open in evenings, allowing people to go to work during the day and then visit the food bank after work. The work that we do with the food bank is everything from, yes, we have some people that are physically handing out the food items to the members of the immigrant community that are coming through. But this is an all-volunteer food bank, so they need people stocking the shelves and working on the database and doing food collection drives and the whole array of work that supports that final act of bringing food to people. And so we've been engaged in supporting the immigrant community, not just by being there on that night to distribute the food, but the work in between as well. We also have folks that are involved in driving groceries to people who are afraid to leave their homes, which is the case even here in the Bay Area, even without the kinds of ice surges that we saw in Minneapolis or Chicago. We have congregants that have been delivering food to people for weeks that have never met the people that they're delivering to. They send a message to an encrypted messaging service that they've dropped off the food and that I'm driving away now, and they drive away, and then the person comes out to collect the food. And ultimately, that's about doing things on their terms, right? Saying what is going to help you feel most safe and most supported, and following the lead of those whom we're serving. The last project I'll just mention is that we've been working with a local church and some other organizations to provide protective presence at the Home Depot out here in Concord, where day laborers gather every morning. And that's an opportunity. Again, it's not about engagement. And sometimes there are people that are engaging a little bit, but the primary role is to be eyes and ears on the outside, and to say, I am here so that you can go about your life the way that you need to. And really to remind ourselves that the role of work of protective presence is about that slow work of creating the kinds of neighborhood conditions for people to live their lives fully in the way that they want to. It's not always that kind of deep personal relationship that we find so meaningful about community service and direct service work, but it's so important to build that trust and to build it slowly and to do it on their terms. So maybe I'll just stop there, and I'm happy to talk more about some of our other projects later.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And so I think that now we're going to turn to Nancy. Thanks for sharing that, Rabbi. Nancy, as you come onto the screen here, there you are.
Here I am.
Here you are. This was an unexpected bonus of working for JCRC. I didn't know I'd get to lead a webinar where you were a panelist. This is very exciting.
Likewise.
As we mentioned in your bio, you're a member of PTBE, Peninsula Temple Bethel's Rodfei Tzedek team. And can you share a little bit about how long you've been involved there and highlight some of the key programs or initiatives that the team has worked on?
Yeah, I'd love to do that. So congregation in Peninsula Temple Bethel has been involved in social justice work for many years, going back to when our first rabbi went to Selma 61 years ago to walk across the Pettis Bridge. But our latest incarnation of as a Rodfei Tzedek team began around 2019, when about that time I joined the team, and we did a major listening campaign around our congregation to identify areas of interest to our congregants. Out of that, our Rodfei Tzedek team identified 3 major areas that then became 4 after the step up in immigration challenges last year. Variety of projects that we've worked on: climate justice, the greening of our temple, where we helped install solar panels. We put in a garden. We changed our meal selection to be veg forward. We've done work in promoting democracy, get out the vote. Actually, a year ago, the leadership team from Rodfei Tzedek went along with the National Council of Jewish Women to Selma for the 60th anniversary of the crossing of the Pettis Bridge, and we were able to do that. Let's see.
That's amazing. I think you were on that Selma trip, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the Selma, yeah, it was a great trip. We've done post-abortion care kits, and under bodily autonomy, and we've done, now we're doing immigrant support work here at Fiesta Gardens International School in San Mateo, and also with Coastside Hope in Half Moon Bay.
Great. So I want to hear a little bit more about Fiesta Gardens. So when the immigration enforcement increased, I know that you wanted to take action, but you weren't really sure what the right path to do that was. And so can you talk about some of the challenges that you faced when you were trying to figure out next steps about how to get involved and how that eventually led you to the creation of the crosswalk guard program with Fiesta Gardens?
Yes.
Okay,
So,
yay. Thank you.
So there were 8 to 10 of us who were interested in the immigration work and interested in taking action on immigrant rights. And we started out racking our brains to what organizations we could partner with, just as Rabbi Torop said, partnering seemed to be the most wise way to use our time. We did not think we wanted to create anything from scratch. We contacted HIAS, ACLU, Faith in Action, other groups. The organizations needed money. We wanted to do work. We understood that they needed money. They needed Spanish speakers. We didn't speak Spanish. We understood that. They needed attorneys. We understood that, but we weren't attorneys. And yet we wanted to do something hands-on. After several months of searching to no avail, and believe me, we made lots of phone calls. I was out running errands, and it occurred to me that we have a school right here in our community that primarily serves our Spanish-speaking residents, and that is Fiesta Gardens International School. Maybe there would be some way that we could support the school. So I immediately got in the car and drove to the school. It was the week before school started, and the school was just moving into new buildings. There were 4 people standing in the hall, and I stopped them and I explained that we had a group of people who were looking for ways that we could show up and support the immigrant community. And did they have any needs? Was there any way that we could help? And I believe that that's really the most important place to start. How can we help you? How can we support you with no judgment? So it turns out that of the 4 people I was speaking to, one of them was the assistant principal. And without a pause, he said, we need crossing guards. There are 3 very problematic corners around the school. They only had the money to pay 1 crossing guard, and that would be for 1 corner. And in my mind, when he mentioned crossing guards, the unspoken words were also, you can be on the lookout for any unwelcome visitors to the community. So we set up a meeting the following week, and Rabbi Demakis explained what they needed. We envisioned having a team of volunteers who could cover a corner 1 morning or afternoon a week. That's about an hour commitment per volunteer. The school provides, we did reach out to the congregation and began getting volunteers. The school provides vests and stop signs. We shadowed their only paid crossing guard, and then we went to work. My partner, my leadership partner on this, Catherine Nelson, found some very helpful training videos on YouTube. So we sent those out to our volunteers. What we won't do. So we've discussed actions to take if and when we do encounter immigration enforcement, especially since the turbulent times in Minnesota. And we've discussed this with Principal Demakis. Our job is to stay calm and notify the school and rapid response so they can send verifiers out, and so the school can lock down the campus. We will not use whistles. We do not want to further scare or stress this student body. We all have phone numbers for the principal, the school, and rapid response.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Can you just give us a little bit about how the school and the broader community has responded to the program?
I'd love to. The school and parents have been demonstrably thankful for our support and presence. Every time I walk into the school office, the principal thanks me. The people in the office thank me. When I've acted as a crossing guard myself, the parents and the children are thanking us all the time. So
That's adorable.
That's just
Thank you.
amazing.
Yeah.
But then, of course, everyone who wants to help can't stand on a corner, and they can't direct traffic flow. So I went back to the school and asked, what else do you need? So it turns out that the school has a pantry that was low on supplies. I asked the school to provide us with a list of their needs. I could not believe how quickly they provided this to us. I mean, like within an hour. And they made modifications to the flyer per our requests. We've begun circulating this list not only to our congregation, but to the greater community. I've made presentations to our local, very large indivisible group. We've promoted this to the Peninsula Interfaith Cohort Group and to the local States Win group. Our volunteers are a very eclectic group. And just this morning, to show their thanks, I received an invitation from the school. The week of March 23rd is School Crossing Guard Appreciation Week. Who knew? The school has invited us to a coffee hosted by the school at 8:25 on Monday morning that week, when our volunteers get off duty and when the parents will have delivered their students to school. They want to offer the opportunity to the school community to thank our volunteers. And finally, I cannot end without emphasizing how this work is making me and other volunteers feel. We are doing something important to show the community that we care. We're doing something useful. We feel better for it. I may not be solving this huge problem, but I'm interacting with a community that is scared, and I'm showing up to let them know that they're not alone.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Mom. Thanks for sharing all of that with us. We're now going to turn to Suzan Berns. Suzan, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, we're part of the Rodef Sholom Immigrant. You are part of the Rodef Sholom Immigrant Rights Team. Can you give me like a little history of the team and share some of the key initiatives?
Sure. First of all, I just want to mention that I know when people think of Marin County, where I live, they don't think of it as being an immigrant, a place where immigrants live, but they're actually 20% of our population are immigrants, and they're mostly Latinos. So after the 2016 election, Rodef Sholom held a social justice action night, and interested congregants were invited to join teams to work in a number of areas, and immigration was one of them, and thus the Immigrant Rights Team was formed. One of the first things we did was ask our board to let us to make it for us to become a sanctuary congregation, and we did, and that was taken care of immediately. Throughout the first 4 years of the administration, we had several synagogue events. We partnered with our JCC and the other Marin synagogue, and we also many of the other advocacy groups in Marin County. One of the things we did initially was a Know Your Rights training for our congregation and the rest of the Jewish community, so people would understand what the rights of immigrants were and how they could help protect them. Another major initiative was establishing the Immigrant Rights Legal Fund to help pay legal expenses related to immigration. And I'm going to talk about that later. We also sponsored an educational trip to the U.S.-Mexico border with a group called Border Links to deepen our understanding of border politics, migrant justice, and the conditions for arriving immigrants. But perhaps the most gratifying thing that we did at that time was to support a parent from a nearby school who had been detained. We held a protest for him. His wife and daughter spoke, as well as clergy and our congressman. And when his trial came up, we filled the courtroom. He was released and will speak at our upcoming Immigrant Shabbat in May. And the word was out that the reason that he got released was because of all the people in the courtroom that were supporting him. Currently, we're working with local elementary schools, and we're in the process of setting up an Adopt a School patrol, which sounds sort of similar to the one that Nancy just spoke about, except we aren't going to be traffic monitors, but we will be monitoring the comings and goings during the beginning and the end of school. And the school we're working with, the first school we're working with, is asking for 2 to 3 people at each time, so it's a major commitment. We also recently sponsored a Know Your Rights training for our congregants again, because it has been 4 years and people don't remember. And plus new people came. And we also did one for the staff because the rules have changed and synagogues are no longer safe places. Another thing that we did that has been really helpful for our team is we did a survey for our congregation, and we asked them if they want to be involved, to let us know how much they want to be involved and what skills they have. Do they speak Spanish? Or do they have IT skills? Are they attorneys? Are they willing to drive people? Things like that. And we got 80 respondents, which we're very pleased with. And so we're able to dip into that, the results of the survey when we need something for another project.
That's an incredible amount of responses. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about the Immigrant Rights Legal Fund, as I know that that's one of the initiatives. Can you talk about when that was developed and how it works?
Yeah, it was established in 2019, and that was when we recognized that the biggest need was for financial help for attorneys' fees. It's specifically for Marin-based immigrants, and I'm going to read you what it said what it says in the on the website about it. So it's for Marin-based immigrants and their family members that require and or are seeking legal services related to permanent residency or lawful status for themselves or their family members. These may include fees for obtaining United States citizenship, DACA applications, bonds in order to be released from detention by ICE, attorney fees, and other legal requirements. We send when we send money for them, we send them directly to the attorney. Donations are made through the Rodef Sholom website or by sending a check to Rodef Sholom. It's a Rodef Sholom fund, and they're tax deductible. People can make tribute donations or just give because they want to give. Since January of 2025, so just in the last year, we've raised about $12,000, and we've distributed 4,500 at this time. The smallest amount was $100, and that was for a short consulting fee, and the largest was about 1,500. Requests come from our partners, our nonprofit advocacy groups, and Marin Interfaith Council.
Incredible. And what an incredible way to offer people that maybe can't do direct service type of work a way to be involved and to help the immigrant community. Can you share a few examples of how it's been used to help community members?
Yeah, I can tell you a little bit, but we don't know a whole lot because we trust that the people who ask us for it are know what they're doing, and there's a privacy issues.
Absolutely.
But just here's a couple. A woman named Nora who's came to us. Her son was detained when he was applying for asylum, and he has a wife and two teenage kids. They all live together. The family had hired an attorney to help him and paid him $10,000, and they were scammed. He took off with their money. And so now had a new attorney, and they were trying to raise money to pay for this new attorney. So that's one issue, and I don't know what happened with him. Another person was Kevin. Kevin is 19, and he came to the area as an unaccompanied minor, an unaccompanied youth. And once kids turn 18, the organizations no longer take care of them. They're kind of on their own. And he he's going to school and he's working part-time as much as he can, but he didn't have enough money to pay for an attorney to help him with his legal status. And so we gave him $1,000 also. We started out giving people less money, and then we realized that the costs are so high, and there's just not enough pro bono work around, and so we're giving people a little bit more now.
Right. That makes sense. Thank you so much for sharing that. Finally, I wanted to chat a little bit about the work with the schools. I know that working in partnership with trusted organizations is such a vital part of doing this work. And you've partnered with local elementary schools, as you mentioned. Can you share about how you reached out to the PTAs there and how doing that has, expanded the impact of your team?
Yeah, well, we have 4 elementary schools in San Rafael that have a high percentage of Latino students. A couple of them are all Latino, and the other 2 are mostly Latino. But coincidentally, team members volunteer at 3 of them. So we already had a connection. For example, I've been tutoring at one of them for 15 years. So also Rodef Sholom is across the street from one of the elementary schools. So we have a long time, deep relationship with that school. What we have done is meet with the community relations person in the school, pardon me, to find out what they need and how we can help. And excuse me, I just have to. And they brought along the president of the PTA when we met. And so they had a couple requests besides the adopt a school, which I mentioned before. The PTA president was looking for someone for IT help. And so we can look at our surveys and we have people that can do that. And she also wanted some people who spoke Spanish so that to help interact with the parents. She felt like the parents may not be listening enough to the other people, and they needed more involvement. And so we are going to try to do that. We haven't moved on that yet, and we're just starting the Adopt a School program. There is a training video that people have to go through to do it, and as the rabbi was talking about, it is a little risky. It is a little higher risk than some of the other legal observer programs that a lot of our congregants are involved in.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here and sharing all that. And now we'll turn to Stewart. Stewart, good evening.
Good evening.
You are one of the co-founders of the Immigrant Advocates Workgroup at Temple Sinai.
Yes.
Can you share a little bit about the creation of the workgroup and what kind of work it does, including how the workgroup shares the information on the ways that people can engage?
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, Jessica, for putting this together, and thank you to the panelists and everybody who's here. As we know, this is sadly, it's a very, very important conversation to have. That said, so Temple Sinai's board of directors actually passed a resolution back in 2017 during the first Trump administration affirming solidarity with undocumented immigrants. In that resolution, the board said, and I quote, "The Torah teaches us that we cannot subvert the rights of the non-citizens among us because we ourselves know the pain and fear of being outsiders." The resolution also said that the temple would explore becoming a sanctuary synagogue. We're still actually grappling with how to actualize that. And then since then, we discovered that we can't be an official sanctuary site because we don't have, showers and other facilities to potentially house immigrants. However, with that said, and with that resolution in mind, several temple members decided to form the Immigrant Advocates Workgroup. We've been in existence, I'd say, for about a year or so, just to see what we could do to support local immigrants and asylees. From the get-go, just like all the other panelists here, we realized we don't have the bandwidth to build our own systems and networks. And we decided that we would sort of focus on partnerships with local agencies who are doing this work, and they're, doing it pretty well. So we formed a few key partnerships, and we keep interested Temple members informed about the various opportunities they have to support immigrants and refugees, and also stay abreast of the issues, which, as we know, change on a daily basis, and they're very, very complicated. So we try to educate our Temple members about what's going on as well. We do have a regular digest that comes out about monthly, and we send it to our distribution list, which currently has over 80 Temple members who have, voluntarily signed up because they're interested in this issue. We also promote the appropriate opportunities and events to the Temple's communications channels, like we have e-news, and we also do it at Temple services and gatherings and things like that. So as far as the digest goes, we cover opportunities such as accompanying an immigrant family, which I'll talk about a little bit more, being a court navigator or being a court observer, providing pro bono legal support, and also setting up drives. Those are just a few examples of the opportunities we discuss. And we actually had a drive just a few weeks ago to build hygiene kits and backpacks for immigrants and refugees who are supported by Jewish Family and Community Services East Bay, who are one of our key partners in this type of work. As most of you probably know, JFCS East Bay is, among other things, an immigrant and refugee serving organization, providing services and resources to thousands of immigrants annually. Something else we do is we also sponsor our own educational events, such as Know Your Rights training. We have panel discussions with local experts. And one of the programs we have coming up in the fall is to do a screening of a movie called No Separate Survival, which is it's a very, very good movie that was produced in partnership with East Bay Sanctuary Covenant.
Thank you so much. I know that you've been volunteering as a court navigator for a while, and can you share a little bit about that, as well as the distinction between what it means to be a court navigator and what it means to be a court observer?
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. It comes up a lot, actually. So the Court Navigator program is organized through a couple of organizations. One is the Interfaith Movement for Human Integrity, also known as IM4HI. I know it's a mouthful, and the Contra Costa Immigrant Rights Alliance. Currently, the program only serves the immigration court in Concord. And as part of the program, we're trained to do several different things. One is to welcome immigrants as they come into the court, especially when they come in with families, and we give them directions inside the courthouse. If the families have small kids, we give them books so they're occupied during the proceedings, so that's a really nice thing to do. And we actually sit in the courtroom with the immigrants. And once they hear about their next steps, for example, they need to file an asylum application, there's several potential next steps. We actually walk out with them, and we just want to make sure that they understand what to do next. And we also tell them about low cost or, free legal resources that may be available to them, which is really important. The judge always says, this is complicated, try to find an attorney. And just like Suzan said, just like somebody said before, a lot of these people, get scammed, like they feel like they're hiring an attorney, they spend a lot of money, and then the judge looks them up on screen while they're there, and the judge says, sorry, this person's not an attorney, you've been scammed. I mean, it's really terrible. Also in the court, there's often somebody there. It's a volunteer position called Attorney of the Day. And we also connect immigrants with the Attorney of the Day, depending on what their need is. And that's a great service to have there. And I should mention that at this point, they're mostly looking for people who are bilingual speakers, because most of the people just speak Spanish. On the other hand, the Court Observer program is a little bit different. It's focused on watching, documenting, and reporting on what happens in the courtroom. Several organizations in the Bay Area support the program, including the Friends of La Peña Immigrant Rights and the National Lawyers Guild. And the things they do include observing hearings and taking notes about what's going on, documenting patterns and problems, providing a visible presence and moral support, and sharing findings with the public as appropriate.
Thank you so much. moving on to something else that you had mentioned when we had our call, preparing for this webinar. You had shared that some Temple Sinai congregants had recently adopted an immigrant family.
Yes.
And can you share how that came about and what that relationship entails?
Sure. So like a small group of people out of the 80, like it's actually a group of 8 people, they decided they would like to adopt a family. The official term is actually accompanying a family. And IM4HI has a program that actually facilitates that. It's called the Nueva Esperanza Accompaniment Team, or NEAT. That's their acronym. And the program trains people in faith-based institutions to form a team to walk alongside recently arrived immigrants, and the commitment is for a period of 6 months. So some of the work the team does for the family includes things like helping them obtain legal representation, trying to find attorneys for them, enroll them in ESL classes, and also help them practice their English skills. Identify food banks and other community resources that they may not know about, and also do things like obtain needed identification items to help them file their legal documents. And the team also provides gift certificates and cash to support the family during the first 6 months. And either the team donates the money themselves or they solicit for donations. And we've actually done pretty well with that as well.
Incredible. Okay, well, we have some time for questions from our attendees. So we're going to bring everybody back on screen and share some of the questions we got in the Q&A. So we have 2 questions about the East Bay Food Bank, or the food bank in Concord. One question is, I'm a Rotarian in Concord, how can we help? And the other question is similar, but with a slightly different angle, which is, I'm not a member of a synagogue, but would like to get involved. How could I get involved, for example, with the East Bay Food Bank?
Great, thanks. I'm going to put a link in the chat. Let's see if this works, which will take you to Monument Impact's website, where you can make a donation of dollars. And there's also contact information there for volunteering. You're also welcome to reach out to me directly. I'll put my email here. I think part of the beauty of all of these partnerships is that you don't have to be a member of our congregation to get involved. We are sending people from our congregation to these other organizations, and we're happy to be that resource and connector and pathway for anybody, to just magnify the work and to everybody get involved in any way we can.
Thank you. And I love that. I love uplifting the partners and helping connect people to the agencies on the ground that need the help. We also have 2 questions for Suzan. So Suzan, you had mentioned that your congregation is a sanctuary congregation. Can you share any more about what that means? This question is asking, do you house immigrants in the synagogue? Or is this the sanctuary meant in the more like in the spirit of sanctuary? What does it mean exactly?
Well, in 2017, we had, can you hear me? Because it says my internet connection is unstable. Okay. In 2017, we had figured out a way to house people in our synagogue if it was needed. It never came up. We didn't have to do it, but it was going to be a little awkward. We had a space behind the stage and a bathroom or down this, around the corner, but it didn't happen. Currently, we have a new synagogue, and one of the plans is to make a space, but that hasn't been done yet either. We've just been in there for a year now, or actually almost 2 years. So it is in the spirit in a greater way.
Excellent. And then the second question for you was about, the Adopt a School being a more risky type of volunteerism. Can you elaborate a little bit more about what you meant by that?
Because we're, as a lot of people in our group are are legal observers, in which case you just sit and watch and record with your phone. In this case, you're supposed to act if you see ice coming, and we are going to have whistles and that kind of thing. So that makes us more identifiable.
Right. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for explaining that. And that brings us to the end of our questions. Were there any final words that anyone would like to share before I close us out? Okay.
I'll just say two things. One, I would say, whatever communities you're a part of, synagogues, professional organizations, places of business, it behooves all of us to start to have these conversations. If ICE is here, what do we do? Do we have a plan? Do we know who's vulnerable and how we're going to protect them? Who's willing to take what kinds of actions? These are preparatory things that all of us can do, so that when the moment comes, when we find ourselves in a situation, we've already thought about how we'd like to respond, which allows us to act from a sense of purpose and of care and community at a level that we feel comfortable with. And the second I would say is just to reiterate that everybody can do something. None of us are single-handedly overturning an entire system, but a lot of these projects require one person to do one thing for 1 hour a week. And you can be that person. And if you and 3 friends are those people, then it's 4 people for 4 hours a week, right? And it magnifies our impact. And so there's ways for all of us to be involved and find something that you heard that was inspiring and get to it, so that we can all be part of building a better and more inclusive and safer community.
I just like to say I definitely second that. Like people should just do what they can, as it says in the Pirkei Avot. You can't, not do the work, but you can at least participate in it. And I think it's also interesting how we all have common themes here. Like we decided all to work through partners, which is very, very smart. We're just doing what we can. Sometimes it's definitely overwhelming, but it's encouraging to see that we're all doing what we can.
Excellent. Thank you all. Before we close, I'm just going to say thank you again to each of you for being here and for sharing your experiences, your leadership, and the many ways that your communities are showing up in support of immigrants across the Bay Area. What we've heard tonight reflects something powerful, that there, like exactly what Stewart just said, there's not just one way to act on our values, whether through advocacy, accompaniment, direct service, partnerships with schools, or simply showing up in solidarity. Each of these efforts reflects a commitment to dignity and care. And for the Jewish community, this work we know is deeply rooted in our tradition. At JCRC, we convene a council of Jewish organizations and individuals from across the Bay Area, and together we have developed an immigration consensus statement that reflects the shared principles guiding JCRC's immigration work. And the statement affirms that immigrants deserve to be treated with dignity and humanity, that families should remain together, that due process and the rule of law must be upheld, and that our communities are stronger when newcomers are welcomed and supported. The stories we heard tonight bring those principles to life. They remind us that meaningful action can take many forms, that each person can find a role that aligns with their skills, comfort level, and capacity. We hope what you heard tonight we hope tonight's conversation sparked ideas for you about how you might get involved, and we encourage you to reach out to us with any questions. Across the Bay Area, there are many ways for members of the Jewish community to participate in this work and to stand alongside our immigrant neighbors. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for your engagement and for your commitment to putting Jewish values into action. And with that, I'll say have a really good evening, everybody.
Oh. Thank you, Jessica.
Yeah,
thank you, Jessica.
Thank you.
And Jessica and Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Take care.
Good night.
Good night.